Okay, I have been stuck. Not only just like recording, but writing. And it's been frustrating because I did a fast recently, and I was already feeling pretty connected to God when I did it. And obviously, anytime you fast, you feel even more connected. But I've been frustrated because it seemed like when I stopped, it was like I stopped. It was like everything kind of shut off for me. And I hate feeling that way. I hate feeling disconnected from God. Even though I didn't really feel disconnected from God, I felt like there was a shift. I felt like I wasn't hearing clearly. Things were changing. I like to be in control, so it can be frustrating for me. So I've still been doing the work. I've still been putting in the work, but I've also been sleeping a lot more than usual, which is also a pretty frustrating thing for me to experience. I hate being off kilter. I hate that I normally would wake up at 5, excited to get up and pray, but all of a sudden I'm waking up at 10 every day. Literally 5 hours of my day are missing. Nothing feels wrong. I'm not sick. I'm not depressed. I'm not overly tired. I'm not going to bed later than usual. I don't know what's going on, and it's frustrating. So I pair all those things together, and I'm just pushing through the best that I can. I understand that there's some resistance happening. I can't really pinpoint everything that's going on, but I'm going to keep pressing into God with all of my might and all of my strength, and I'm going to ask him to keep giving me more strength to continue doing it, because I can't do anything on my own. I need him. I can't even press into him the way that I want to press into him on my own. I need him. So of course, in the moment, you may not catch on to the answers that you're getting, but over time, you can look back and see how he weaves things together and puts the puzzle pieces in place to kind of unfold the story to where you are. I couldn't really see this at the time, but I was in this really awesome group of people over Zoom one night, and something was presented to me. It was kind of like, I don't know if anybody else caught this, but I caught it like God was referring to my season of waiting. And I am actually pretty comfortable in my season of waiting right now. Do I want it to be over? Yeah, of course I do. Why would you not want to move on to the next phase in your life that God has for you? I can laugh at it now because I've given up control, and I'm like, I know what I want, but God obviously isn't done here yet, so I guess there's more work to do. Everybody was feeling the energy of the waiting right when it came around me, and one person specifically said I was just waiting for God to tell me. And I didn't say this out loud, but I thought to myself, that's because God just says, what did I already tell you? And it immediately brought me back to a lesson that him and I worked out last year. And it was kind of like a repeat thing, and it was really cool for me to have that come up again. What did I already tell you? There is a sermon by Stephanie Ike. I forget what it's called actually, but she says in it that God's silence is directional. Sometimes God doesn't give us the answers that we're seeking because he already gave them to us. I've probably made videos about this before, worth bringing up again because God definitely brought it up to me again. So even though in that moment I wasn't looking for an answer, I wasn't waiting for God to give me an answer, I chuckled when my season of waiting got brought up because I was like, yep, I'm living in the waiting and doing what I can while I can until he tells me to move. He told me to pack my go bag like a year ago, and I did. I haven't picked it up yet. That's not the point of the go bag. The point of the go bag is to be ready when he says to move. So I laughed about the season of waiting. I laughed about him not giving an answer. I didn't ask for one because I already know. I already know what his answer is going to be. I already told you. What did we already work out? So fast forward a few days, I experienced something that kind of disrupted my peace. And it frustrated me that it disrupted my peace because I didn't think that it would. Damn those human emotions, right? So once again, I felt like I was knocked off kilter, and I'm like, enough of this. Why is this happening to me? So, I was just chatting it up with God, like, why is this bothering me? I did what I was supposed to do. I honored what you told me to do, and I did it fully in my servant's heart. It wasn't at all what I wanted to do. I would not have chosen to do those things, but I did because I knew that's what God wanted me to do. And then I felt like the Lord was like, well, then you stopped. And I was like, I thought I was done. But going in the back and forth with God and the searching for God to refill that peace, because I stand pretty firm on the belief that only God can give me my joy, so only God can take it away. So I was like, what is this? I understand it's a moment in time. I understand we're supposed to have emotions, but like, what is this? Because I don't like this, and I don't believe that this came from the Lord. And what came out of it was that time with God just really allowed me to be present in what I was feeling. And what I was feeling was I was wrong. My peace was disrupted because I was reminded of a situation when I made the wrong choice. And I didn't like it. And it was a time when I guess I just had to be vulnerable and have full transparency. I chose to trust and believe in a person, which is something that I don't do often. So to feel like I was wrong in doing that is a very, dang, stony heart. Oh, that's gonna tie together too. Are those hogs? I don't know. I felt like I was wrong, and I felt like I had been deceived. And for somebody who spends so much time trying to do things right and use God as my scale of right, and what does God want, and is this in alignment with God's will? How did I choose wrong? And sometimes it's really hard to admit that the wrong choice sometimes is the right choice, because there's lessons, and there's testing, and there's refining, and there's buffering in those choices. That's why we're allowed to make them. That's why God doesn't just hand us everything. He wants us to make these choices. He wants us to see. He wants us to be able to overcome. He wants us to lean on him in the hard times. And for me, God has been showing me all of the ways that he's changed me through these experiences, and how now when I experience something, I'm not handling it the same way that I did before. I'm not stepping out of alignment with my character. I'm not losing my shit. I'm leaning on him, which is something I didn't do in the past. I tried to take control. I tried to seek revenge. I tried to inflict the same pain that I was feeling on the inside. Life lesson for you, if you don't already know this, all you're gonna do is turn those arrows inward and feel it even more. Don't do that. Let God handle it. But anyway, so I was getting really frustrated. Like, okay, well, I'm feeling these things. I'm aware that this is what I'm feeling now. Cool. First step to overcoming this is to know where my problem lies. So now I'm addressing it with the Lord, and I'm like, but how? How do I overcome this then? How do I avoid this in the future? And I'm not saying like, I'm not expecting to make every choice right from here on out, but how do I avoid this feeling? How do I understand that the choice that I made may have been the right choice in the moment, and it only looks like it was wrong from where I'm standing now? It could have very well been right in that moment of time. Anyway, the Lord took me to Ecclesiastes 4, and the title in my Bible for that chapter is Oppression, Toil, and Friendlessness. I feel like I've lived a life of toil. I've lived a life of hardship. I used to think that maybe my gifting is affliction. Maybe I'm just here to feel the pain, to show other people how to get over it. I had to read this chapter over and over and over again. I knew right away that it was the answer to my question, but I still felt like there was a lot of barriers. There were a lot of blocks that I got back to verse 12 again. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And I got agitated at first with God, because I'm like, why that verse? That is something that we hear at weddings a lot. Why that verse? But the truth is, it's not just about a husband and wife relationship. It applies to all of your relationships. People make the statement all the time, I don't need church to have a relationship with God. No, absolutely not. Your relationship with God is your relationship with God, but you do need the church to have community. You can't do that on your own. And this verse in Ecclesiastes is saying just that too. One may be overpowered, but 2 can defend themselves. And a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. We know that God is the 3rd strand in all of our relationships. He needs to be. Then God brought to my attention, through somebody else, speaking his word on TikTok. See, social medias and all that. But he brought me this verse in 2 Chronicles 32, verse 26. It says, Then Hezekiah repented of the pride of his heart. Stony heart. Oh my gosh. Then Hezekiah repented of the pride of his heart, as did the people of Jerusalem, and therefore the Lord's wrath did not come upon them during the days of Hezekiah. But I want to jump down a little bit to verse 31. But when the envoys were sent by the rulers of Babylon to ask about the miraculous signs that had occurred in the land, God left him to test him, to know everything that was in his heart. And I've been sitting on that. I haven't written a single thing today. I've just been sitting with that, really since last night. When God tests our heart, God didn't actually leave Hezekiah. God never actually leaves us. God is everywhere. He's everywhere. He's in everything. It just made me think of how I felt as though my relationship, the presence of God, had shifted in the way that I was hearing him, in the way that I just knew. All of the answers were coming to me immediately, whether I was asleep or I was awake, whether I was listening to somebody speak or I was listening to music or I was watching something, or if I was just going about my daily life and just saw something. I'm so used to always hearing God speak to me in so many different ways. So what would it feel like if God left me? It would probably make me feel frustrated because all of a sudden I'm not seeing him in everything. It doesn't mean he's not giving me answers. It doesn't mean he's not still speaking to me, but I'm not seeing him, right? Normally I would think that must be me. I must be doing something to put up a block or a wall, or there's some kind of resistance. I'm not hearing God because I don't want to hear God. But that's not always the case. Sometimes God takes a step back. He doesn't actually go anywhere. He's still with us. He's still watching over us. And we know that that's true because it says that God wanted to see what was in his heart. He wanted to see what choices Hezekiah was going to make if he wasn't seeing and hearing God in everything. I've given you all the answers before. We've already gone over this. I have trained you for this moment. Now what are you going to do? They always say the teacher is quietest during the test, right? God left him to test him and to know everything that was in his heart. Take comfort in knowing that the Lord is still with you. He hasn't gone anywhere. He hasn't actually left you. But maybe you're not seeing him like you're used to seeing him. Maybe you're not hearing him like you're used to hearing him. Maybe you're asking him, God, what am I supposed to do? God, what do you want to tell me? God, what do I need to know? How do I get through this? What's the next step? And you're not hearing the answer. And maybe that's just because God is looking at you and saying, what did I already tell you? If you're in a season of waiting, if you're in a season of testing, be comforted in knowing that the Lord is still with you, even if it doesn't feel like it. Journaling can be important because it can help you look backwards and see where you and God have already walked, see the areas that you've already tread with him. How did he help you last time? What has he already taught you? What tools has he given you? What weapons has he sharpened in you? And if you're not hearing him or feeling him or seeing him in the ways that you're used to, is your response still going to be to turn to him? Or are you going to lean on your own understanding? That was a lot. And I still have a lot to work out in that, but interesting. Thank you, Bob.